Hi, I'm William Malik with your bit of security for the 8th of January, 2025. Happy New Year. I had the pleasure of speaking with a number of people who were on the boards of directors of organizations, US-based companies recently. And the question on the table was, how do you effectively govern cybersecurity? It comes down to a few basic principles, which I'll go over in a minute. But the first thing I want to ask is the larger question, which is who cares? Now, if you're a public company or if you are advising a public company, there are reporting requirements. The SEC expects certain things to do. Breach notification laws have to be followed. There are various laws and regulations governing personal information, proprietary information, preserving privacy, and so on. If you are not in a public company, you may say, well, I don't need to worry about that. But then you need to consider the future of your business. If the enterprise you're part of is not going to change, if it's a lifestyle company, it's good for you, it's good for your friends, and you don't see any exit, then carry on. If, however, you expect to go through an IPO at some point, or you expect to be acquired at some point, the acquiring company is going to look for evidence of effective governance of your cybersecurity program. So you want to have something in shape. If you don't have those measures in place, it will impact your valuation, which means that you're not going to get as much money for all the hard work you've put into the thing. Now, the board governs cybersecurity by making sure that there is a comprehensive information security program in place and that they are regularly updated as to its effectiveness. So it's not enough just to set it in place and let it go. You've got to make sure that it is in fact performing properly. There have been some significant lawsuits brought against boards of directors for either not having programs or for having programs that turned out to be not paid attention to. People would wave red flags and nobody would care. I mean, you have to actually do something. You have to make sure that it's being used. You have to make sure that it's being enhanced as things change. When the CISO reports on the status to the board of directors, and this would happen maybe quarterly, maybe semi-annually, more often if there's some kind of a noisy problem, then you're going to want to show one chart. And that one chart is going to have a bullet that talks about the current threat landscape that's relevant to your organization. One line that's going to talk about the state of your remediation and your protections. That is, how are you prepared and how you respond when something goes sideways. And also what you would like to see in terms of budget changes to more effectively maintain or improve those measures. And that's it. That's all you want. Certainly quantify stuff, have information behind it, but you don't want to risk your credibility by saying with 4 digits of precision how much you are likely to lose in the event of a particular instance. Board members see a lot of financial data and they aren't easily snowballed by it. So citing a well-known study, whether it's SANS or DFIR, Verizon Report, or what have you, that talks about the average loss needs to be couched in terms of our business is not average in the following ways, and therefore our exposure is proportionally greater or less in these dimensions. However, you want to be able to answer questions about that. The kinds of questions the board should ask will include, are we compliant with the relevant laws and jurisdictions in every place we operate? What's the status of our remediation findings and notes from our last audit, from our last PCI DSS exam, from our FedRAMP initiative, from our recent business continuity exercise, from our recent incident plan desktop exercise? The board may want to know, are we on target to complete the due diligence of the IT component of that organization we're considering acquiring? Where are we on there? Are there any problems we should be aware of? The selling organization will want to be as forthcoming as possible, but there may be some things that they don't want to put on the very front of page 1 in large type. How's the morale of the incident response team in light of the recent noisy problem that we know you just went through? Could we schedule a review of our consolidated incident response plan in the next, say, 6 months? Now, with regard to incident response, one note I want to go into a bit here. You want to have one plan. You don't want to have an incident response plan for this type of problem and another one for that type of problem, because what we've seen is that nowadays problems have multiple attacks that they exploit. They occur concurrently, so you could be facing ransomware as well as damage to process, as well as disruption to supply chain at the same time. You want a comprehensive plan that covers all eventualities, and you want to make sure that it's been exercised. You want to make sure that the board knows that you're on the job by bringing them in on things like desktop exercise, a scenaric planning initiative to say what kinds of things might happen, what are the outcomes. I've given a video in the past on what futurology and scenaric planning looks like. This would be a good place to apply that kind of thing. In order to answer these questions, the CISO will have to work with your audit team, with your legal team, with the CIO in his organization, and with other units across the business. You'll want to schedule, perhaps, penetration tests and know how to use the results. You want to have solid verified plans to deal with interruptions in service, with cyber attacks, with upcoming audits as part of governance. Think about, if you were the CISO, how you would respond to those questions and what are the questions you might expect them to ask. And if you're on the board, think about what questions you would want to ask in order to more effectively demonstrate that you are governing your organization's information security capabilities properly. I spent a little bit of time doing research for this, and I want to call out Jody Westerby's book, The D&O Guide to Cyber Governance, an extraordinarily comprehensive and detailed document that talks about exactly what kinds of things the board should be aware of, the role of insurance, how to work with vendors and supply that. So think about that high level of governance. Start the year off right. And that's our bit of security for January 8th, 2025. I'm William Malik. Be safe.